come out of the forge, and we set the face down, using half blows, half on the anvil and half off. We're also going to draw down for a little bit for the nose. Start a dragon head and refine it just a little. So when I come to the vise, I hammer the nose down at a 45-degree angle. This gives me a couple of flats to exaggerate the nostrils. Using the center punch, allow them to bulge up behind the nostrils. And be constantly using the hammer to dress up the face. I use a hot cutter to cut his mouth. After we get his mouth cut, we use the hammer to dress up the bottom jaw and give him a little bit more definition. Back to the vise. Now I'm going to use the eye punch, or center punch first, to mark his eye sockets. Make sure you have your vise good and tight. I use the eye punch to put the pupil in his eyes, tighten him up in the vise, and this makes the eyes of the dragon. Come out of the forge, back to the anvil. Now I'm going to mark where I'm going to cut his horns. I'm going to start the horn cut, which I'll finish in the vise. Then I'll use my blunt punch to start defining and separating his eyes. Now we come to the vise, and using our hot cutter again, we're going to cut the horns, cut along our marks that we just made, and lift the horns up. After we make the cut, coming to the other side and cut the other horn. You can always cut inward and downward towards the front to keep from cutting the horn smooth off. Use the blunt nose radius punch to separate and lift his horns up. And there again, I like a good radius at the bottom of the cut to keep from getting a cold shine. But I'm lifting the horn up so I can come back to the anvil and stretch his horns a little bit. I go to the anvil and use my blunt punch, put a little definition in it by lowering the metal behind, or knocking it down behind the horn. That's going to make the horn come up higher. Come back to the anvil, we'll stretch the horns just a little bit, standing the horns more up, and fold them back inward, and roll them forward slightly. Give them the look of a dragon's horn. Round up his neck and taper this down a little bit and give it a smoother look. Because if we want to bend the head forward or something, we won't be able to work on this part of the piece after we do anything else. Okay, and there's a dog-head dragon. I want to come to the vise This is a point that I think is important. That I use a wire brush to clean the part up. And this is a sander polisher. It's not an angle grinder. Using a wire brush on a high-speed angle grinder, I think is very dangerous. Slings wires every which way. This is a low RPM sander polisher that only turns about 2,500 RPM. Wire brushing it at a red heat gives it that blue luster finish.